Well, welcome. This is Bill Griffith. Welcome back to our series on painting wildlife. In this particular case, I'm doing some mountains and a eagle in front. And I hope that all of you that have been following this series, you're welcome to either follow along with mine or create your own landscape and wildlife painting. Now, one of the things you constantly see, and I've repeated many times, as you continually go back, look at what you've done, and if necessary, make some corrections or some additions. In this particular case, this is video 4. It follows video 3 where we refine the mountains a little bit. And now we're going to move into the forefront of the painting, the grassland and that type of thing. Now, before I do that though, I wanted to refine my eagle a little bit so I had a better idea of where he was, how he was situated, and make sure the proportion's right. So when the video starts, you'll see that the eagle has changed a little bit, but the positioning is still the same. I've just basically sketched in a little more details so that I can follow along while I paint. And that's certainly something you can do too with your landscape. Or if you're following along with the eagle, you're welcome to stop the video, refine your eagle a little bit, and then come back to the video so that you can follow along with that. So let's start the adventure and have fun. Okay, as I mentioned, during video 3, we worked on the mountains, trying to get some more depth into them. The further away they are, the more obscured by sky and clouds, this kind of thing. And they're also a cooler color, and that's the blues. And then the mid-tones begin to darken up a little bit because these mountains are a little closer. And then the mountains up forefront, although there's some green in here, which is cool, they'll have a lot of reds from the rocks, and they'll start bringing them forward. And what I want to do today is lay in the grass across here, and I'm going to use a lot of reds and orange colors to increase the warmth of these paints, again, to bring the foreground forward. Now, in nature, there's still a lot of green right in here, but I was afraid that if I did that, this would look very flat down through here, and I don't want that. As you can see, the eagle's now in position a little better. I added some tail feathers in, so I got that reference, and kind of made sure all the proportions are correct. So we're ready to start. So I'm going to come across here, and basically I'm just going to start with some darker tones, and I am going to go back to my raw umber just a little bit here to create some dark tones in this paint. So I'm going to come across through here, and you'll see that these are basically going to turn into shadows and dark areas within the grass area. Now I'm scribbling like this in order to make sure that whatever I do does look like grass and not some sort of flat rocks or something like that, because that's not what I want. Now I'm going to avoid going up in here because there is some rocks that sit up in that area. So I'm coming across here with just dark tones, just raw umber is all I'm doing right now. And going over on the other side here. Now, because my sun is coming down through here, this is going to be a very shadowed area. So I'm going to darken that up a little more than normally I would. But this is a dark area right here with all the shadows and stuff, especially from the stump sticking up there, and the eagle's silhouette. Notice I've lost my little tree limb so far right up through here, but it'll come back if I want to preserve it. All right. There's also shadows coming down through here, so this area is going to be pretty dark. At the base of these mountains, and the wings are going to come on down through here too, so I'll go ahead and darken that up a little bit. Okay, so now, like I said, I like to get some red tones in there, and what I've added to my palette is a little bit of burnt sienna, and I'm going to use some of that. And it's definitely a lot more heat. It's a hot, warm color. And again, this is an effort to bring it forward and make sure the grass looks like grass and in the foreground and has the right color that I want. Now, some may say, well, wait a minute, grass is green. Well, no, it isn't. Not all year long. And even in areas during the summertime and wintertime, there may be a lot of reds and oranges, yellows, this type of thing. So now I'm kind of sitting there, and I'm going to add a little yellow ochre to my paint here. Again, just getting different colors in there, trying to make it more realistic as far as natural grass, which is not uniform. But notice, if you would, the warmer colors are coming forward in the painting as compared to the cooler colors in the back. That's very typical with any of your colors, whether you're doing landscape, portraits, wildlife, it doesn't make any difference. Now down in this area, there's part of the easel showing up is what this little white line is. I noticed in the camera, so kind of disregard that. Add a little bit of my red back in, and I even going to go with a little cadmium red on top of that. I really want to make this real warm. So I'm going to come back through and just a few areas down there through here. Now, a lot of you are probably sitting there saying, well, that doesn't look like grass, it looks like blobs. Well, let me show you a technique. I'm going to take a little paper towel, and I'm just going to come through and dab it, kind of twisting my hand as I do this. And notice it just kind of blends the colors. Your eye will do that too. If you think about it, take a look at your landscape, or if you're outdoors doing plein air or something, and your eyes will mix those colors. Now I've got my colors kind of mixed up, so now I'm going to take a little fan brush. I'll find the right one here. And I'm just going to start putting in some vertical lines to where I make sure it definitely looks like there's grass in there. I remember watching painting films and stuff on TV, some of the well-known people like Bob Ross and some of those, and they'd use terms like happy colors, happy paints. I guess that's what I'm doing right now, is putting in my happy paints. Now, because I'm dragging up some of these raw umber colors, it actually adds to the texture of the grass areas here. Now, several areas need to be highlighted a little more. So I'm going to go back to the raw umber, and I'm going to create some areas that resemble grass areas up closer to the camera or the observer of this. Now, as I said before, if I'm not happy with it, I can certainly come back through. I've watched some painters. One of my favorite artists is Richard Schmidt. Unfortunately, he's passed away now, but he frequently mixed colors, changed his plans, recreated something else. And I've even heard rumors, not with Richard, but others, that there have been artists that just take their paintings out after they're done. They're so just happy with them, and rather than repainting it, they'll burn it or destroy it. Now, I wouldn't do that, but all right. I like to get this shadow a little more defined down here, so I'm going to darken it up a little bit. Kind of drag it back up into the grass so it's not too apparent. Remember, I still have this stump thing sitting down here. Now I can come back later and add in flowers, all kinds of stuff if I want to. Right now I'm just interested in getting this warm section of grasses up front. Now my rocks across the back here, I want to go ahead and kind of dab them in a little bit. We already started. They're sitting back here underneath this mountain, probably coming off this rock slide here. So I'm going to kind of add some texture to this mountain too. Lots of erosion from the snow melts and things like that will come down through there. Now, because this area will have more water because of the flow of the melting ice and things like that, you'll probably see a little more greens showing up in this area. So I'm going to add a little bit of green tones in here. And it's going to be breaking out into the sunlight because the sunlight's coming down through this area, so it's going to get lighter. Got a little red there on my brush, but hey, I'll live with that. Notice the green bulk back out here. Okay. And when we find in the next video, when we start doing the final little details of the eagle, I'll come back through and do some details on these pine trees on both sides to make them pop out a little bit. Trying to get a little bit of green in here. Some pine trees right there. And they just kind of fade around behind here. And there'll be some greens down in here, although I don't want to destroy my warm tones down here by adding too much green. But at the same time, there's lots of overlap and the grass is going everywhere. When we come back, I'll add some details, and I may even add a little flowers and this type of thing in here. because that eagle's got some prime habitat there. Now, as the sunlight comes down, it's going to bounce off this little root area down in here, and I think it might be pretty nice to kind of highlight that just a little bit, and I'll come back again later and go into details. And I'm using the famous technique of using my the finger here, to kind of create my texture down through here. What that does is basically establish a little bit of separation. I'm going to go back before I stop here and add just a few things here just to kind of emphasize that this is grass area. And it's bunch grass. I guess they call that Johnson grass, blue stem. There's all kinds of grasses out there in the wild. And I'll put, again, more highlights in when I come back. This is a good place not to be blending too many colors, because then it gets real muddy. So you do want to let it dry just a little bit as you're coming across it when you reach this point. And I'm going to do a little bit over here. Now, as you can see, what I'm using is just a little small fan brush. Okay, we're going to stop there. Some may be saying, hey, wait a minute, don't stop, don't stop. But that's the whole objective of this series, and I hope you've been patient with me, because I want to make sure you got plenty of time to understand what I'm doing and the ability to follow along and correct any mistakes, because this is a learning process. And it was always geared to be kind of a basic thing. I didn't want to just rapidly go through a painting without slowing down and explaining what I'm doing. So I need to stop now, again, to kind of think about what I've done. Obviously, I'll be looking at my tones and values again. I want to make sure my depth is good. And I'll take a look at that eagle and the stump and kind of consider different things I want to do to that. I would like to maybe do something with these rocks over here, make them a little more highlighted. However, I don't want to draw people's eyes over to this area either, so I don't want a lot of detail, just primarily colors. Because my star of this event is my eagle here, so I want to make sure he's in real good shape, really defined, and just kind of pops out of the canvas. So if you like this particular part of the series, please click like and also subscribe if you haven't. When we're done with this, we're going to take the big one, and our next series will be doing a portrait. So until then, you have a good day and continue adventure. We'll see you later.